In the world of competitive golf, one name continues to disrupt everything you thought you knew about strategy. His name, Scott Fawcett, known as the Moneyball of Golf. A former professional golfer and data analysis, Scott is the creator of Decade Golf, the most polarizing course management system in the game today. From USAM champs to tour winners like Bryson DeChambeau and Zalatoris, Scott's players have redefined how modern golf is played. But this isn't just for the pros. I started using Decade in 2022, and it's one of the biggest reasons I'm now a +2 handicap. Why? Because Scott simplifies the complex. He teaches committed golfers how to stop guessing, play the percentages, and think their way to lower scores. If you've never heard of Decade, it stands for D equals distance, E equals expectation, C equals correct target, A equals analyze, D equals discipline, and E equals execute. It's more than strategy. It's a mindset that will transform your game. And in today's episode, his fourth time on Wicked Smart Golf, Scott's not holding back. We cover a wide range of topics in this interview, including why Rory could have won the Masters by 10 shots, Scott's systematic approach to a solid short game, why most putting advice is dead wrong, and his PGA Tour proven strategy to help your mental game with putting, plus why getting emotional on the course is costing you shots. If you want to make your misses better, pick smarter targets, and finally stop throwing away strokes, this episode is your masterclass. Get ready, because this chat with Scott might just change the way you play forever. All right, Scott, thanks so much for being back on Wicked Smart Golf, man. Appreciate you being here for part 4. Appreciate you because 2022, man, I was like brand new podcaster, and you really helped the show out and have continued to rile people up in the comments. And I'm sure we'll be able to make some magic today, which I feel like is where we got to start, because the Masters, I mean, wow, like you don't have Twitter anymore, but you were treating Instagram like it. So I was getting Scott's live feed. I think you did it Instagram live even that day. What's your overall take of the Masters before kind of getting into some certain shots and holes?
I mean, I thought it was incredible. I mean, again, it's just so interesting when people ask me for picks. I'm always just like, I'm the least interesting prognosticator ever because I'm like, start at the world number 1 and go down from there. But I did say for the Masters, Rory and Bryson, just because they draw their drivers as righties, are always going to be solid picks there. And so it really was just interesting watching it unfold and just like I normally don't say, like, I don't like the saying horses for courses. Oh, well, Tiger won at Bay Hill however many times in Torrey. I mean, like, well, he's really, really good. And so, yes, there's a few courses he won a lot on. Tell me the similarities between Bay Hill, Torrey, and Firestone, because if there are any, then sure. But they're not similar. I mean, they're
Right.
literally completely opposite parts of the country, even like different greens.
Yeah, it's
Like,
not like they're all in California or anything.
yeah, I mean, the dude's just really good at golf. But anyone who hammers the ball right to left, which is normally going to be a lefty or an anomaly of a right-handed player in the modern game, which Rory's a unicorn with the driver, and Bryson's a unicorn with the driver because he's got such a weak left-hand grip that then he's trying to snap hook it as hard as he can, and because of the way he's got I mean, honestly, what he's trying to do is get his joints to the end range of motion to where they can't go further. And then that's why his grip is so weak. And then he's just trying to swing as hard as he can and snap hook it. And it's just from the positions he's in, he can't. And so it's just a really unique way to go about it. Again, as a right-handed player in the modern game, to hammer a draw is definitely weird. And so it's just so obvious that those guys are going to do good there, especially when they are really good anyways and playing good coming into it. But I really enjoyed watching Rory win. There's just,
So
the
good.
number of head scratcher things and kind of lucky breaks he got. I would love to know what he was really trying to do on 11. The fact that that pitch out didn't go into the water was pretty mind-boggling that it stopped where it did. He looked like he got a little bit of a bad kick off that one hump, but also I bet you he was trying to get that ball further left on the green than he should be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not on team. Let's rag on Harry. Harry Diamond, that is his caddy. You can't put a value on having your best friend on the bag either. Do I
Mm-hmm.
think they could make some better committed decisions? I absolutely do. You also can't put a value on the other intangible that Harry brings. So I'm not on team. I'm not on team. Let's fire Harry, but I am definitely on team. Hey guys, let's make a few better decisions because number 13, he should be hammering driver straight at the trees And if he happens to pull it, again, what I mean by that always is if you were aiming your driver at a tree on the far end of the tee box, theoretically half the time you should miss it left of that your target. So you aim it at the trees, you hit it as hard as you can. If you happen to pull it, you're going to have 6 or 7 iron into that green. If you happen to block it, those trees are so sparse, and you
Hmm.
have 160 yards across because you can utilize all of 14 also. There's no way you can't lay it up unless you are just dead stymied. You can't lay it up to inside 100. So he should just be roasting driver every time.
Let's talk
So I
about
don't
13 because that
understand.
was hard. That was hard to watch. So you think so? Like you said, 11 was so nobody messed up on 12. By the way, this year, I feel like there was no historic
They're
like.
finally understanding the most basic course management thing ever. I mean, at this point, if anyone takes on that flag ever again, it's just like, whatever, dude. I mean, there's too many holes left to try to force something on that hole. I mean, you've
Hmm.
got
Two par
13, 14,
fives.
15, 16. Like, aside from 18, and 18 even, honestly, is can be birdie. Birdie hole, I hate that word no matter what. But you can literally birdie the last 6 holes and
Hmm.
or even better.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's just like this is just not the place to force it.
Yeah. So
10, 11,
13.
12 are just not the places to try to force anything. I don't care how many back you are.
When he made birdie on 10, though, I like was doing stuff on my laptop. I was kind of just like watching, but multitasking is like, he's 3, 4 shot lead. Like, I don't think he's going to screw this up. And then 13 happened. So he took 3 wood right off the tee. Why isn't he? Did you see any mini drivers, by the way? I know we've talked about those in
I
the
swear to God,
past.
I fell asleep when they were on 10. Until you just said that, I didn't even know he birdied 10. I
Yeah.
literally didn't. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that. I fell asleep on 10, woke up when they were on 13, but I didn't see what was going on.
Hmm.
I just woke up to 100 text messages, literally. And I just closed my eyes and hit reverse and just rewound it all the way back. And someone had texted me that ball should have gone in the water on 11. So that's what I rewound it to was
Hmm.
11. I actually did not even go back and see 10. And then tried to do everything I could to get caught up so I could comment on Instagram. And like what you say, I did a live. Como called me. He's like, "We got to go live." I'm like, "Hold on, dude. I'm catching up." I'm like probably 10 minutes behind still. And then once we started it, we realized he was 10 or 15 seconds behind me on the live feed. And I was just like, "Oh, this is never going to work, man. I can't keep my mouth quiet going, have you seen it yet? Have you seen it yet?" So we tried for a second and then punted that.
So he should have hit driver, you think? Is that the play on 13, like you said, just because then
100%.
if you're going
Yeah.
through, so then the second shot, okay, so he hits the 3 wood. It was a
And
good
that's what
quote of,
just for
yeah.
everyone listening at home, if you're going to play like if you can't get home on a par 5 and you're choosing to play it as a 3 shot hole,
Hmm.
obviously is rule if you can't get home. Okay, cool. Maybe do whatever you want off the tee. You should still probably just be playing with proper tee shot strategy.
Hmm.
But if it's a hole like that where you can get a 6 or 7 iron in, I mean, he can get it down there to
Yeah.
200-ish, I would think. Um, because I agree, like hitting a hanging lie 230 full iron into that green, not not ideal, especially with that front light pin. There's just so much that can go wrong and not a whole lot that can go right, even though it is a huge green. I have no problem with his layup once he chose to play it as a 3 shot hole. But yes, he should be hammering driver there, reassessing after the tee shot, which takes a lot of patience. If he hits it to the spot where Phil is and he's only 210, he's on pine straws.
Hmm.
Do you have the courage to just go ahead and, you know what, I was going to play it as a 3 shot hole. This didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and I'm not going to screw this up because
Hmm.
I have a lead. Like
Right.
the only thing I can't do here is screw this up. And so I don't understand. I mean, I do not understand the third shot there, obviously, or the
Well,
second shot into
did you hear him
18.
in
It's
the afterwards talk about where he was aiming
Yeah,
though?
I mean, he said
What?
he has
Like
a
he's
tendency
like,
to pull those shots and whatever. Like,
which you do,
I
but
assume,
why would you even be near that flag? Like there's
well,
30 feet
that's kind of
left.
the point is like, I assume that doesn't mean you pull it 100% of the time. I assume like you have a miss that is a pull if whatever happens in your swing.
Yeah.
Well, we don't we don't adjust for it even at 30%. Let's say he does that 30% of the time. We don't call into account for the fact I might pull this 30% of the time. You just have a good solid target, 3, 4 yards left of that pin. And if you happen to pull it, oh well. But if you
Hmm.
happen to hit the shot that he hit, you stuff it. And if you happen to hit a good shot, you've got 10 to 15 feet probably for birdie, which
Hmm.
is a pretty good thing to do with a 2 or 3 shot lead, whatever he had at the time. Like,
It was hard. It was literally, I mean, I got gray hairs watching that. I know a lot of people felt the stress. So let's say someone is in their club championship, they have a tournament, they do something like this, they are winning, and then they just hit like a really, really big miss hit or like a double bogey or worse. What would you tell someone to kind of reset after that hole? Anything you would do or have done in any of your pro or USGA, any of the big events?
well, I mean, that's where the idea of meditation, which, I obviously talk about all the time, you're not going to magically not get pissed off. And so, I posted this the other day and it really resonated with someone, so I'll go ahead and say it again here. But like a meditation practice is preparing, this is a Sam Harris thing. I always feel inclined to quote it as much as I can, but is preparing for the worst day of your life because it's coming. Like you, Michael, have a really bad day coming and you don't know when, but it's going to happen. And so you spend your entire life for this one moment just so you don't make it worse. I mean, literally, and
Hmm.
because it might be a moment that if you make it worse, you or someone you love could die. Just as an extreme example, personally, my worst day, was when my sister and nephews were in a double murder suicide, and I was only about 2 years into thinking a lot about Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and a little bit of meditation and whatever. So I wasn't fully prepared for it, but I was more prepared than I would have been 3 years earlier. And at this point now in my life, I am fully like I don't really care what the worst thing, like let's say one of my kids died. If you're watching, girls, sorry, but um, I just it would be suck, but I would also be very focused on what would they want me to do with my life. Be really sad,
Hmm.
and again, I'm not saying it'd be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you do have to compartmentalize. Man, that sucks. But as far as they know, nothing happened. They're dead. So yes, it's too bad they didn't get to live their life. And again, I'm trying to make the most extreme example physically possible here. But for me, the only thing I'm longing for is to talk to them and everything else, and just wishing they could have had the life they could have had.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe their life would have been a total train wreck. Like maybe that was a reasonable outcome because the world's going to get hit by an asteroid in 3 days, or just whatever. And so it really is club championship now being less of an extreme example. I can sit here and dwell on what happened,
Yeah.
or what would the guy who was completely calm on the first tee, what would he have told you? All right, dude, hey, you're gonna make a double. You're gonna make a 7 on 13, Rory. How are you gonna handle it? Well, can I not make a double? No, no, no. You made a double. How are you gonna handle it? Well, I'm gonna try to be composed. I'm gonna try to move forward. I'm gonna try to leave that in the past. So, I mean, again, it's the idea that wisdom is taking the advice you would give somebody else. What is the advice you would have given yourself knowing what was coming? Again, you don't get to change your kid dying. You don't get to change making a 7 on 13. How do you want to handle it? Well, can I cry? You
Mm.
can. Is it really going to help you? Not really. So just that's really again what I think. So your question of what can they do? Well, they need to be preparing for it.
Mm.
It's not magic. Because if you're not prepared with some sort of a plan, you're probably going to get pissed off. You're probably going to get emotional. You're probably going to start chasing, and you're probably going to play the last hole 6 over instead of 2 over and winning your B flight at the club championship. I mean, I just believe that's a
Mhm.
fact.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective to have that preparation. Like you said, most people are not doing a lot of the mindfulness stuff you and I've talked about in other episodes, and a lot of the Sam Harris of the world have talked about. So yeah, it is about preparing for it because, like you said, it is unfortunately an inevitable at times. So
We all
obviously
treat
he,
we all treat we all treat problems like anomalies. And again, just I literally
yeah.
just quote Sam Harris nonstop on this. So if you ever, oh, it was a Sam, like I'm trying to say it. We all treat these problems like anomalies. The Tiger Five. I played 8 rounds of Champions Tour qualifying school. The Tiger Five mistakes: bogeys on par fives, doubles, three putts, blown easy save, bogey inside 150. The relatively basic mistakes that we all make, I treated those like anomalies when I was playing professional golf in my 20s. So when one happened, I got pissed off.
Mhm.
Why did I do that? This sucks. Well, in the 8 rounds of Champions Tour qualifying, I had 20 of those mistakes. So I averaged 2.5 per day. It's not surprising when one happens.
Mhm.
And so the real point of meditation, the real point in my mind of peak performance from a mindset perspective is knowing and being prepared for these things that are going to happen. It's really funny. Tiger just keeps staring at me from behind your shoulder, like, damn right, man, keep saying it. But that's what that guy did. Everyone,
Yeah.
when I talk about like not getting mad, for me, getting
Mhm.
mad is not good because I just implode.
Hmm.
Everyone always says, well, Tiger got mad. I'm like, he did. And everyone's got like the 30-second rule or the 10-step rule or all these. So I can be mad for 30
Hmm.
seconds or 10 steps or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, well, do you actually do it though?
Hmm.
Are you actually not mad after 10 steps?
Hmm.
Or is this just something you tell yourself, yet
Hmm.
you keep on a little bit down? I've realized for me, I can't get mad at all. Like I just have
Hmm.
to laugh from the moment something bad happens because it's just going to implode. Tiger, because he meditated basically since birth because of his mom's Buddhist background. Tiger for sure is able to get as mad as anyone out there, and then it is over, and he is
Hmm.
moving forward. He never hits the next shot with any emotional attachment because of the prior shot, and that is
Hmm.
so hard to do, especially and it's easy when you're just a an old dude like me playing 20-30 Hammer Wolf, and you just lost a couple $100 because you did something stupid. All right, well, I can stay mad because it's no big deal, but out there in the heat for a major, it's a bad idea unless you want to get
Hmm.
thrown back in the fray real quick.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. It's kind of like preparing for it, like off the course. I like the 10-second rule for me, but I've started doing it off the course. So I had a car issue. Normally would have been really pissed me off. I allowed myself to be furious for 10, counted that thing down on 11. I was like, all right, let's figure it out. Let's, get into solution mode. So again, I think it does come down to preparation. I think can help. And obviously
I like that
he
get into solution mode. I like the way
you know what I
I
mean?
like
Yeah, I
I
remember
like
Tony
it.
Robbins had a quote like spend 5% on the problem, 95% on the solution. So it's like, most
Yep.
of us get a problem and we just dwell on it. It's like, listen, I like when my girlfriend comes to me with a problem, I'm like, okay, here's a problem. Here's how I'm going to fix it. She doesn't, I'm not as good with being compassionate about the problem. I'm like, let's fix this thing. So I'm fixer mode. Obviously, Rory fixed it on the back nine.
But
Any
that's also
hole.
why guys have a lot of issues in relationships with females
Yeah.
is they come to us with the problem like, cool, let's fix this. I
We're
just
this.
want to be
Yep.
mad at something for a second. I just need to vent. Like, trust me, there's as many times for my wife as she comes to me to just unload and vent. And then I start trying to fix. She's like, I don't need you to fix this, man. I'm
Yeah.
CFO of a home builder. Like, I know what I'm doing. I just need to get
Hmm.
this off my chest. Like, okay, I'll just sit here and listen then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I got to get better about that, Scott. So maybe when I'm the elder Scott over here, I'll be able to get that. So compassion. All right, we're getting life advice, we're getting some relationship advice. What about the last few holes out there? Anything stuck out to you on how he closed and kind of what happened on the last few? Because 15, arguably the greatest, was that 4 or 5 iron I've ever seen. That
Seven
was
iron.
was that what it was? That a seven?
7 from 215 or something? Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know why I
I'm
thought it
pretty
was
sure.
a
I could be
longer.
wrong on
Yeah,
that. I'm
no,
pretty
I,
sure
I
that was a
think it
7
was
iron.
actually. You're right because I remember thinking, wow, he better nuke this thing. Obviously, he had a lot of adrenaline, but I mean, that's such a hard shot. Like, what are the
Oh God.
chances? I know you're the stats guy. What are the realistic chances of getting a shot from what 215, 220 to 5 feet, something like that?
Again, since I'm not on Twitter, the only time I ever see Lou's feed is from when like Zyre Golf or somebody
Hmm.
repost and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like each shot was one in whatever thousand chance of on
Oh,
seven,
I saw
15,
this post.
16,
Yeah.
17. Yeah, and when you did the math of this times this, there's a few holes I would punch in it, but it's really, 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 really rare that you would hit 3 consecutive shots as good as those were. But I say all the time, winning requires luck.
I thought
There
about
is
you the whole tournament with that when he was getting all the
there
breaks.
is zero doubt Rory thought his ball was in the front bunker on 17. And
Mm.
it was so obviously in the front bunker because he finally just like gave up. Like he gave like go, go, and then he finally just gave it like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And then it goes to, 2.5, 3 feet. That that whether that was the wind laying down, the ball knuckling a little bit because he caught it a little high in the face, like whatever it
Hmm.
was, that ball for sure carried about 5 yards further than he expected. And, those guys are so good. Do they hit the number they think they did every time? No, but after impact, if you said, how far is that going? They're within a yard or two.
Hmm.
Because even when I was just hitting balls, I don't use my quad with range balls other than to play this game because I know that the numbers it's actually spitting out with range balls aren't accurate, but I do at impact watch it and then I try to guess the number just so
Hmm.
I'm getting a feel. And dude, I'm within a yard every time. Like, so it doesn't matter what I was trying to hit it, but like once I've hit it,
Hmm.
I'm within a yard or two tops basically every single time. And so Rory for sure thought he hit that 5 yards shorter than he did, which means either the wind laid down or gusted up to help him those.
Hmm.
It's just very convenient, in my opinion. Again, Rory, love you. Really, I was rooting for you the whole way. That was the most emotional. Like that was by far the coolest golf tournament I can remember watching. And I even posted just from recency bias. I went back and watched the final round of 2019,
Mm,
like the full telecast again
nice.
the next day because I'm like, I just want to see what this was like. And it was
Hmm.
like, yeah, this is cool, but God dang, that entire back nine was just so wheels off with just
Ugh.
big leads, no leads, big lead, no lead. Just like that was unbelievable, man.
It
And
was,
then
dude.
on 18
What happened
from
on 18?
125,
Please, please talk us through this. So he hit a great shot. I mean, clutch, feeling good. He had 125. I didn't see the green sheet, but what? The pin wasn't more than, I mean, that decade target's pretty much right at it from 125. It wasn't more than six
well,
left, was
no, but
it?
so that green is 17 yards wide.
Okay.
And then it is from once you get over the false front to kind of the top of the ridge, you've
You
got
got,
about 15 or 16 yards.
and if it
So he
hits there, it's
literally
going to spin
has
back.
Yeah, but yeah. But I mean, so he literally has a zone out there 17 yards wide and 15 yards deep
Hmm.
that if he hits it in, he wins. And yes, if you favor the right quartile, so if you've got the middle of the green and the right edge of the green,
Hmm.
if you favor basically right in between those, it's a bit more of a catcher's mitt that's going to funnel the ball basically back to the exact same place, no matter where you hit it in a relatively large circle. It's going to the same spot,
Hmm.
18 feet from the hole where O'Meara made his putt from. And I can only think because it's not like at impact, you could obviously see that it was a bad swing, it was bad contact.
Hmm.
Like, I can only imagine that he was favoring that 5 yards right of center, trying to use that catcher's mitt. And it's
Hmm.
like, dude, he needs to be trying to hit it at the dead center of that green because if he pulls it, yeah, we don't want to go long left, obviously, but also it's not going to be that hard of a chip to just chip it onto the green and like
Hmm.
two putt it, move on with our same bogey. The up and down from the bunker isn't very difficult either, but the only goal there is to hit the green.
Hmm. So you think
That's
he
the
just
only
favored a shot pattern too far right?
I do because I mean, it wasn't even close. Like
No,
when he was kind
I
of like
couldn't believe it. I was like, no,
at
no.
first at first in his follow through, like it looked like he was like, come on. And so I thought this was going to be right on the edge of the green.
Hmm.
It was like 3 or 4 yards into the bunker. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't even close. And I just don't believe there's any way that swing produced that shot if the middle of the green was his actual target. I don't think there's any way.
Hmm.
And so that's again back to Team Harry, Team Rory, like, hey, pro, like, what are we really trying to do here?
Hmm.
Like, I need to hear it because if you say anything other than the dead center and then we agree on what the dead center is directionally, we're going to
Hmm.
need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
If you say I'm favoring the right quartile because of the catcher's mitt, well, hey, man, what happens if we block it?
Hmm.
Like, that just,
Yeah. I mean, so I know you worked with Bryson back in the college days. Do you think Rory has any sort of system that he's using, or is he
I
use
have no
light like a
clue.
light version? You think he's just kind of picking like, hey, I'm really, really good at hitting the golf ball, so I'm just going to pick targets. If I'm playing well, I'm going to play a little more aggressive. Or you think he has any sort of system?
I don't. I mean, again, I rarely would make a statement like this, like I can help the second best player in the world.
Hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind I could help him substantially. And that's only because we would just be talking about expectation management, the realities of avoiding the Tiger Five. He had 16 Tiger Five mistakes in 4 rounds.
That's wild.
Tiger was trying to have six in order to win on tour. He had 10 more than Tiger's goal. And I mean, everyone else on the leaderboard was just right where you would expect them to be. That
Hmm.
if you reduced them down to six, they would have been winning or tied for or just a shot or two back.
Hmm.
If you reduce Rory down to six, he wins by 10, obviously.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just,
That's
it's
wild. So Tiger
so
was
unbelievable,
six.
man.
Okay, that's cool. So the Tiger Five, you talked about a little bit. I did have a question from one of the fans who, when talking about the Tiger Five, if you have a three putt and a double, he wanted to know, is that Tiger Five times two, or is that just one?
It's two. You can have all five on one gloriously bad par five.
Okay, okay. So you can do that.
Yeah.
So with
And there
the
is people definitely push back like that's a
yeah.
flaw in it, which I don't disagree to some extent. What we're really trying to accomplish with it is just saying, hey, in post round analysis, I don't want you to tell me I could have shot 4 shots lower. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to tell me what were your Tiger 5 mistakes and what could you have done in real time to have avoided it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the definition of post-round analysis. You've got to kind of rub your nose in it a little bit, make it sting. I
Mm-hmm.
played my Masters event at my home course here, Stonebriar in Frisco, that the Saturday of the Masters. And it's my fifth round of golf since November, and I'm rusty with thinking and everything. And number 10's a dog leg left that I wasn't really committed to my line off the tee because it was blown pretty hard off the right. And it's only like 320 to the front edge and downhill, and it's kind of riding the wind. But if you pull it, you're in this creek and totally
Mm.
dead. I just wasn't really committed because of the wind off the right, and I just blew it 1,000 yards right in these trees, and then didn't hit a very good recovery shot and left it. The pin was kind of tucked. It's got this little finger in the back right, and it's a little pot bunker. And I put it just short of the pot bunker where I've got to go over the pot bunker, and it's straight downhill. You can't chip it within 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I was 2 under through 8, bogeyed 9, which is a really hard hole, whatever, no big deal. Bogey's completely fine on that hole. And it wasn't like I wasn't accepting, man, I'm in a bad spot here. But I also wasn't totally committed to just, hey, just you screwed this up, man. 20 footer coming back, two putt it. Yeah, you're back to even and tied. Okay. And I just hit a shot that I couldn't even tell you honestly what I was really trying to do with it. And it barely carries the bunker another foot and it goes tight. I look like a hero, but that still would have been pure luck. And unfortunately, it comes back in the bunker and now I make double. What I should have been saying before the shot was, what's the Tiger 5 mistake here? Well, the Tiger 5
Mm.
mistake here is going to be a two chip, which is going to also be a double. Like I'm in a terrible spot here. Don't two chip this. Don't make double.
Mm-hmm.
If I had thought about that, so in real time, if I had acknowledged that, I think I could have played a smarter, more committed shot than I did. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, hey, if you hit a great tee shot to 120 in the middle of the fairway, I'm not too worried about you saying, what's the Tiger 5 mistake here? Technically, it would be bogey inside 150. So just make sure we pick a good target and
Mm-hmm.
hit your shot. And it is what it is. But once you're in any sort of a funky spot, or you need to think, what's the Tiger 5 mistake in play here? Because one of them will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Whether
like that.
you
Keep Tiger 5 top of mind. That sounds like what you kind of play with.
Yeah, I mean, and so like let's just say we are greenside in regulation, but I've put it pretty short sided in a bad spot. Tiger 5 mistake that's in play here is two chips and a double.
Mm-hmm.
Let's avoid that first and foremost. I've got a 45-foot kind of weird curling putt. Well, the Tiger 5 mistakes three putt here. And so let's make sure I've got a good read, good speed. I'm just trying to lag it as close as I can. I'm not worried about trying to make this or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. There's just so many situations where you can ask that question and there is an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, you really are just trying to avoid that mistake at that point.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good way. I always say ask better questions, get better answers, right? So it's like if you're asking that, you're then kind of hopefully minimizing the damage, like you said. And if you do run hot, like some of us do, you hopefully are avoiding that double or triple that then is going to sometimes lead to even worse. So it's just simply keeping that top of mind. And like you said, though, even like tournament rust mentally is kind of real sometimes. That's why you got to kind of ease back into it. And then, some more tournaments sometimes can kind of help you stay a little bit more sharp.
Well, and I always hate saying I feel salesy with this, but that really is a lot of the point of the decade content. We've still got the one video per week that comes to you based on
Mm-hmm.
your stats. We're also shifting so much to our new Tiger 5 interface, and we're going to start sending basically some sort of a little video every round you play that's based on whatever Tiger 5 mistake you had most of that round.
That's good.
Because I do believe that staying sharp mentally, even without playing many tournaments or tournament golf, is comes down to just something as simple as watching a video like, oh, you know what, that really makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. And they're going to be 3 or 4 minutes long. So I'm asking you to take an extra 5 to 10 minutes a week just on your
Mm-hmm.
phone because most of them also I'm trying to optimize to just be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're just driving in your car and just listening to me talk through the situation,
Yeah.
because when you finish a round of golf and think you should have shot lower, it's always mental or strategic mistakes. It's
Mm-hmm.
not if it's not that, then you wish you were better. Like you either did something mental or you just wish you were better than you are, which is also completely in play. And so what we're really trying to address are those mistakes. How could we,
Mm-hmm.
again, I always like to phrase it in real time, could you have done anything different?
Mm-hmm.
No, or yes. And if so, what would that change have been? and I've probably said this on one of the prior podcasts, but back whenever I was playing professionally in my 20s, I always thought that to stop making that bogey from 120 that I would be telling my buddies about at dinner that night and how stupid it was, I felt like I had to get better at golf to stop doing that. It just never crossed my mind. Well, hey, you're 120, the pin's three from the left. Maybe you should aim a little right of it.
Yeah.
I don't think, actually, I do think that I thought that, but then I would hope that I pulled it a little bit. It's like I'd rather
Hmm.
you aim it right at the flag than aim it right at the flag and hope you pull it to it, because then
Hmm.
you're probably going to overdo it and really pull it left. And that's to me the cardinal sin that most. I think there's an inflection point where you're a 15 handicap and you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about half the time, to a scratch and you're like, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's an inflection point somewhere along the way where some of the dumb stuff good golfers do, bad golfers aren't even aware yet to think to do that.
Hmm.
They're just too caught up in everything.
Yeah, just thinking about their swing probably and trying to be perfect and do all this stuff. So it is, you're right. It's kind of like levels to it. You got to become a little bit better sometimes at ball striking and then become aware of the course management stuff that you talk about so much. But I think even the fact that if they are a 15 or 20 listening to this, I think they might start to like have that first thought, like, huh, never really thought about that. Sometimes I do try and pull it or push it towards the pin.
Well, I gave a seminar in Miami a number of years ago, and literally had a PGA Tour player in it and a 65-year-old lady. And both of them came after me. It was like, that was eye-opening. But I always get to this one spot in the seminar where I'm showing the Tiger video where he says I play aggressively to my spots, which might be
Mhm.
more on the conservative side. And then I always add to that, like, I mean, I feel like in my 20s I did okay. I would aim right at the flag, but then I hope would pull it. And the tour player literally just looked up and he just started laughing, shaking his head. And I said to him, I'm like, I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if you're laughing because this is so stupid or because you're so stupid. And he's like, oh, because I'm so stupid. He's like, I do that 9 times around. I've always known it's dumb, but I've never taken the time to just sit down and think through how dumb is it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's and 100% of the tour players I've worked with, not named Tiger Woods, literally say they do that every single time they play. I
That's
mean, I'm
wild.
not kidding. Every time they play. And if there's anything that I do with a tour player more than anything is just express like, hey, that's dumb. And
Hmm.
they're just like, yeah, I know, but and that's why I enjoy playing more tournament golf myself now that I'm 50, is
Hmm.
I get back out there and see like how hard is it to not aim at a flag? You know what? It's really hard. The flag is by far the biggest distraction in golf. And it's not even close. There's not even a second place how distracting the flag is. And so really getting good at, like, if I told you to aim at a tree on the range, you wouldn't ask me, well, where do I aim? At the tree. You wouldn't ask
Hmm.
me, like, what do I do with my body lines? Like, you just know what you're doing to center your shot pattern over that target. But then once I've told you, instead of aiming at the flag, we're going to aim at the right lip of that bunker on this approach shot. Well, where do I aim? What do I do with my body? What do I do with all this? Like, you've got to just figure out what you do on the range, which is why I'm such
Hmm.
a proponent of block practice. You've got to figure out what you're doing on the range and then do that out on the golf course. I
Hmm.
really think that that's one of the main reasons I talk about block versus random practice so much. And okay, I get it. If you're, baseball, hitting balls off of a tee isn't the best way to get to the major leagues or even a pitching machine. That's the study that everyone refers to that they hold out as this biomech guy from Arizona State showed that college baseball players that hit pitching machine versus live pitch, the odds of them going to the majors are. And I'm like, we got some confounding variables here,
Hmm.
because if you're getting live pitch baseball in college, you're probably at a better program with more money, which kind of means by definition you're probably better in the first place.
Hmm.
But you know what you do a lot more when a human is throwing the ball at you than a pitching machine? You pay attention.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
that's, and you cannot control for the fact that, man, a dude's throwing 85, 90, whatever at me, or
Hmm.
that machine's locked at 105. I know the machine is going to not kill me. Even at 90, I might take one in the ribs and from a human, and that seems like a bad idea. And so that's the thing in block versus random practice. I do agree that people, when they randomize their practice, they pay more attention. I totally
Hmm.
agree, because we're changing our targets, changing clubs. Totally agree with that. But that doesn't mean you can't also do that in block practice. It just takes more effort.
Hmm.
And once you're really good at it, well, now you've really got it to where you're locked in and honed with that. And that does make it easier once you get out on the golf course.
I loved that nugget so much it made it in the block practice section of the second book because it was absolutely
Beautiful.
perfect. I love that in there because I think it is needed. And like you said, you gotta find ways to like stay mentally engaged because it's super easy to just check out and like get on your phone and do stupid shit. So you have to definitely be a little bit more intentional. One thing I've learned
Listening to
from you,
music, everything else,
yeah,
podcasts, like,
yep.
you know.
One thing I learned from you with practice was the importance of routines and really like dialing in that whole process. I love one of the videos in Decade where you have the GoPro on your head and you're like talking it all out. I encourage anyone I work with to do the same, and anyone that just wants to get good in tournaments and playing under pressure. So kind of full circle moment here. I had your guy Dr. Michael Larden on, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so this is wild. So I was trying to find a quote for my new book, and it was all about tournaments. And I remembered something from his book, and I'm like, huh, hadn't read that book in a while. So I go back and I highlight like crazy when I like a book. It's a small book, and I'm going through it,
Which one?
and Mastering Golf's Mental Scorecard,
Okay.
the first one, and so or the second one, and so I'm going through it, and I'm just like getting ready for the interview. I reached out. He's like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, perfect. So I'm like doing a quick refresher on it, and I know you have it inside Decade as well, but I'm laughing because I'm going through, and he's like, this guy went from +4 to +6.5, and I'm reading the story. I'm like, man, this I highlight. I'm like, I highlighted the whole thing, Scott. I shit you not. It says this guy, and it says your name, Scott Fawcett, and underneath it, I write a note says, I want to meet this guy. So really, really like full circle funny moment to me because I'm like,
Wait a second.
huh,
You're saying you wrote that forever ago?
I wrote that in 2018. So
Wow.
I go back on Amazon. I look at my search history. I'm like, when did I buy this book? Because I quit my corporate job 2017, got into tournament golf again, just bought every mental golf book I could find. And then I started reading that, and I didn't even know who you were. I didn't know Decade. I mean, I didn't even know about Decade until late 2021. And so really weird to read it and be, I want to meet this guy. And now we've met a couple times and you've been on the show 4 times. So kind of funny to like full circle moment there, but routines,
That's
man. I mean,
hilarious.
they're so key, and like I just don't think anyone has them, and then they don't practice them at all. So I like wanted to ask you because I know you've talked about full swing routines. What does your short game routine look like, and like putting routine? Is that something you've kind of like owned in over the years? Was that even something you were thinking about when you were playing as a pro? I know you had a Q school what 5 6 months ago. Like what does that routines look like for other parts of your game?
Well, the only thing I'll add to your Dr. Larden's book, I can't remember which one it is, but he's also, when he's telling the story, he and I started working together in 2008, which, he took a flyer on me. I was a huge David Duval fan. And there was an article, the last page of like a Golf World or Golf Week or something like that. They always had those one pagers.
Hmm.
And it was all about Dr. Larden working with David Duval and this. And so I just sent him a flyer of an email in early 2008 just saying, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work my butt off on my game this year. I'm going to try to win US Mid-Am. I'm going to enter PGA Tour qualifying as a 35-year-old amateur. You know, any chance you'll help me? And he was like, I'm full. Normally I don't, but for whatever reason, this actually sounds entertaining to me. So let's do it. And in that book, which the first one that he had me in he released in like 2011 or 12. And actually and I can't remember what it is that he's talking about, but he's like, Scott Fawcett, a successful businessman out of Dallas, Texas, hit me up, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Scott is a self-described Excel nerd is
Yep.
literally what it
Yeah. No, that's the
says.
book. That's the same book. Yep. Because I was
It's
I was
so
laughing at
funny
that
because
story
I'm
because
just
this is
like,
way before Decade and everything. This is,
oh,
but
actually, yeah, it
yeah.
predates it by 5 years. I mean, and
God,
that's
that's
what's
so
so funny to
funny.
me when it's like that he actually, I don't even know where he would have come up with that to say a self-described Excel nerd. Obviously, I'm sure I said it, but that was really funny. So, to your point, back to chipping and putting routines, I have really, again, I can't say pedantic anymore because somebody told me in the comments of a YouTube video that I'm using that word wrong, which I'm like, no, I'm not. I Google search pedantic. Oh, wow, I am. And I use it a lot. I'm also saying and again a lot right now. I gotta work on that little hitch. Um, but everything that I'm really trying to do, I played to a +5 last year in my tournaments, and I have not practiced a flop shot in 2 or 3 years. I've got it to where I'm like, if I'm in a bad spot, I just really need to like not screw this up. And I just need
Mm.
to avoid that bad spot. So if I get into a like a materially bad spot once to twice around, you know what, if I can just make a bogey there, I'm going to do all right everywhere else. And then circling back to the Tiger 5 mistakes, no blown easy saves is what Tiger
Mm.
technically tracked. I changed that into 2 chip just for my amateurs and Decade. But if
Hmm.
I can utilize the no blown easy saves, I just want to get really good at the pitch shots where you're like, man, I should get this up a huge percentage of the time.
Hmm.
And I don't really honestly even know what that number is, somewhere between 70 and 90% of the time type up and downs.
Hmm.
And all I do for my chipping practice is I just lay out, if we're if we're hitting off of grass at my home course, I literally just lay these tees straight out in front of me and I just hit the range balls. I lay tees out at 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 20, and 30 yards.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to hit stock chip shots, carrying them that far.
Hmm.
I have started to add now because I've definitely like, you know what? I can get pretty close to playing on the Champions Tour. Can I really do it? I don't know, just because I don't know if I can get my travel schedule and all that stuff, but I'm pretty close to being like quasi competitive out there. So this year I'm going to try to add I'm not going to call it a flop shot, but just a little bit more of a trajectory shot,
Hmm.
and not even one for like 5 to 9 yards, because I'm like, that really should probably just be a chip shot. If I'm that far off the green,
Hmm.
it shouldn't be a flop shot.
Right.
But if I start getting into that 9 to 13 yard where the pin's only 5 yards on and I'm having to hit a little bit more of a trajectory. So
Hmm.
I am now trying to get a little bit better at those. But that's all I do. I have
So
not
do you
hit.
in your routine then? I'm just trying to, because like I talked to Derek Dominski. I know you've worked with him, and great guy,
That's where I
and
got it from.
yeah. So like he had me kind of shift my routine. I was to like trying to feel a position if I'm 30 yards, which is my knee, or if you want to do the clock system. So like I'm trying to do that for like the 30 to 70 partial lob wedges. But you're saying
Sure.
for like the short game shots, when you're saying like, do you pace it off and say, hey, this is my 7 yard, this is my 11 yard?
So what I tell people to do is like take I can hit it softer, but like if I just take a normal chip shot,
Hmm.
so just like the kind of the softest I can hit a normal chip,
Hmm.
that for me carries 5 yards.
Okay.
All the way up to if I take my hands basically to parallel to hip height and the
Hmm.
club is parallel to the ground. So if I do that, it's 15 yards.
Okay.
So now I've got positions in between there. So where 5 is kind of as soft as I can hit it.
Hmm.
How I feel it in my head is 7 is just a little bit more hand travel.
Okay.
9 is a little bit more. And then 11 is where it starts feeling more like a pitch to me. So
Okay.
5, 7, 9 are chips.
Okay.
11 is starting to get a pitch. 13 is just short of that parallel number. And then 20 is I cock my hands up just a little bit.
Mm.
And then 30 is just a shade longer than that, but I actually try to hit it. So I
Okay.
actually try to put a little
Put a
energy
little
into it.
emphasis into it. Okay.
And then
That's
to be
helpful.
perfectly honest, from 30 to let's call it 50 yards,
Hmm.
I just try to not put it there. I mean, I just literally don't practice it
Yeah.
at all. And
Okay.
so then at 50, I know where my point is in like the Pell's clock system, rest in
Sure.
peace. I know
Yep.
what 50, 60, 70, and I actually have a way that I go on all my chip shots. I use like a reverse overlap putting grip.
Okay.
And so at 60, it's kind of like as far as I can take it back without like using any wrist set with the
Hmm.
reverse overlap. 65 is the same spot, but I try to hit it.
Okay.
And then at 70, I go to my normal interlocking grip, same position, because that's going to start getting more wrist and more strength into it.
You're an
And then
interlock. I
so
didn't realize that.
I go 70, and again, so it's like the same
Okay.
positions.
Uh-huh.
70's interlocking. 75 is as hard as I can hit it. Like I don't hit
It,
my short irons very far. 75 is basically as hard as I can hit. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm swinging my ass off, but
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's as hard as I'm going to hit a 60. And
Hmm.
then at 80 yards, I go back to the reverse overlap in my 54, and it's that dead-handed shot. Dead-handed with
That's a lot
speed is
going on
80.
here, man. You do you
It's
just
really
know?
not though.
Well, you're
I
talking
mean,
about different grips and different positions. Do you just know all this, or do you have like a little card in your yardage book?
I've just done it a billion times. I just know.
Okay.
But again, it's really not. So let's say 60, 60 is the same spot as 65. 65, I'm just trying to hit it.
Okay.
70 is the same. 70 is probably a little bit longer, but just because of going interlocking, my hands are naturally going to get more wrist set,
Hmm.
which is going to turn that 65 into 70. Now hitting it hard. So I've really got two positions and two grips and
Okay.
two energies.
Have you ever
And
heard of
they're,
anyone doing two grips? I have not heard of that yet.
dude, I mean, again, I've got a bunch of tour players that I've
I know you work with the best. That's why I'm legitimately
taught that
asking.
to. I mean,
I've seen the cross-handed chipping, which I tried at the range, and it was comical how bad that was. So props to Matt Fitzpatrick. But is that something that you do see at the high level?
I wouldn't say it. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I
Hmm.
definitely have guys. I definitely have guys. So I started doing it because I got a little yippy. This is what's actually weird, is I started getting a little yippy with a chip.
Uh-huh.
And so I went to my putter grip and be like, you mean so your putter grip wasn't yippy? It wasn't, because it's a chip shot motion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a putt.
Mm-hmm.
But by going to this reverse overlap, it naturally takes your wrist out of it, as opposed to whatever, even if you're just like an overlap or reverse overlap, excuse me, overlap or interlock regular grip,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to kind of naturally, because of you're more used to your swing. By going to that reverse overlap, it just, for everyone I've seen, and so a lot of the guys that I work with that are high speed players,
Mm-hmm.
that then just can't, like, I just can't hit a shot 40 yards because they just like breathe on it. It just explodes off the club face. That's just because they can't get that wrist set and hit out of it.
Uh-huh.
You go to that and it just takes them out of them. So I'm not going to say you see a bunch of guys doing it, but I definitely have a bunch of tour players that will do that in practice
Uh-huh.
and then go back to their regular grip when playing. I don't understand why. Uh,
I guess I
but
got to trust it. Yeah, that's interesting.
they can just feel the club head speed. The lob wedge, I think this is accurate. I could be wrong, but I think the lob wedge basically launches at like a 1-to-1 smash factor, kind of
Mm.
through some speed, and forward shaft lean and everything like that, dynamic loft, whatever you call it. And so I think that guys, once they can feel that club head and how fast it needs to be moving to hit a shot 60, they're so good that they can go back to whatever grip, but they can feel the club head speed better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just want to, so to clarify, when you're doing your chipping, like you said, because I'm at plus 2.5 right now. The goal is to get to +5 one day, like you. But I feel like the chipping could be better in that area because I have the matrix set up for the 30 to 60, like Derek taught me. But I think even inside, like you're just saying, so when you're doing your practice strokes next to the golf ball, excuse me, rehearsal strokes, I like to call them, you're actually thinking, okay, this is, at my waist. This is like you're kind of telling yourself that position.
Well, and so one thing that I was doing, I don't have to do it as much anymore, but one thing I was doing, so like let's say I had an 11 carry, I would
Mm-hmm.
just go 5, 7, 9,
Ooh, okay.
11. And so I would build into it because, I mean, again,
Ooh,
and so like if I'm playing a tournament round or just a round of golf and I don't have time for, like, let's
all
just even
that.
call
Yeah.
it 10 minutes of chipping,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'll just sit there until I kind of own that 5 yard number, and
Mm,
then 15 yards. So I'll just hit 7 or 8 chips, 5 yards, 7 or 8 chips, 15 yards. And
mm-hmm.
once I own those two, I kind of know, like, it's just a sliding scale in between those positions.
Okay.
And so once I've warmed up 5, I'm going to own 7 and 9. And
Oh,
once I've
okay.
warmed up 15, I'm going to kind of own 11 and 13 coming behind it, coming down.
Mm,
So,
okay.
I
That's
mean,
good.
it really is funny to me.
It's good. I'm
I
glad you
just,
said I don't practice flop shots because I see people doing that and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, like people like there's nothing worse than having like a super simple chip and you just blow it. And then you're like, God, it's
yeah.
just, but so practice that 99% of the time.
I'm making up a number here completely, but let's say that I'm trying to, if I were going to try to be really good, I told some of this before. Like, they asked me, like, what would you need to do to really get competitive? And I'm like, I would have to practice 10 hours more a week to get one shot better.
Mm,
Like, and so it's like, to me, to practice for 5 hours a week to get a half shot better, well, that's still not good enough to be competitive on the Champions Tour. It's
mhm.
like, I don't really do much right now, and I play to a +5. And I hate saying that because people are just like, screw you. But like, I'm 51.
You got a lot of experience into this though. It's not like you
I'm
just started the game.
51. But what's interesting is, and I do believe this, is having simplified every single aspect of the game. I'm not gonna say it's not that hard, but like, I never try to draw a single shot no matter what. And I've kind of drank my own Kool-Aid too much on this, to where it's like I actually can't draw it anymore. I literally cannot. I can hit a snap hook accidentally, but I can't intentionally hit an attractive draw.
Uh-huh.
So I just don't try to anymore. I just get up there and I slap my cut out there.
But I want people to hear that simplify. Like you have simplified the game so much for me and anyone that's went through decade. Like I just wish I knew this 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like the whole decade, like I know it's just like a perfect uh, you know, name for your program because it really is simplifying. And that's why I'm like the chipping thing you just said. I never thought about that. I when I talked to Derek, I was like, damn, I never really thought about that either from the 30 to 60. But then, like you said, there's still like levels to it. But I think the reason you probably, and you kind of said it, the reason you have been able to play at such a high level despite not practicing and playing as much is because you've just simplified it. So you've just like, when you do
Just don't try
practice, you know,
hard stuff.
you just know what to work on. You're not doing flop
I
shots. You
mean,
have a system for everything.
I don't try hard things. I'm
Yeah.
sure it'd be cool if I could hit
Playing the
some.
one shot shape, you know, like that. When you said that, I was like, huh, I've been playing the game wrong for 22 years, you know, like it
Yeah, I
just
mean,
so,
and then
so dumb.
you let the variance within your shot pattern because that's what's going to do it anyways.
Hmm.
If the pin's left, well, sure, it's going to be a little bit harder to get a fade close, but technically, if my 6 iron, if my a great shot is, I mean, I don't know, a 10-yard fade, something
Hmm.
like that, the left side of my shot pattern, so the shot that comes off 10 yards left, that finishes 10 yards left of my target, is not a 10-yard fade. It's not like I pull it and still hit a 10-yard fade. The
Hmm.
shot 10 yards left of my target is pretty much just a hot pull. My start line is going to be pretty similar. Path is very consistent for all players. Or I should say, path is more consistent than face for all players. And for good players, it's a heck of a lot more consistent. So my path is pretty consistent. Really, what's going to determine where my golf ball goes is the variability in my face. So the left side of my shot pattern is just where I happen to square the face more to my path than I intended to. So it's just a straight pull. My shot 10 yards right of my target is just where I left the face more open than I intended to, but my path was still
Hmm.
consistent. So it's a little bit of a short flare. That's why our shot pattern tilts for a right-handed player, long left to short right. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're playing a draw or fade, it has the same dynamics because the flip side of it is okay, so for a draw, my path is out to the right. My left shot is more of a smother. I've de-lofted the club by
Hmm.
closing it more than I intended to. And the right side of my shot pattern is just a block. I've left the face more open than I intended to. So even for a draw, it's the shot pattern is the same. And once you understand that, like, so yes, I can hit a fade close to a left pin with a 6 iron because I just happened to pull it and the distance just
Hmm.
happened to be correct.
Hmm.
But by owning a shot shape and doing the same thing over and over again, it removes this fatigue of this decision fatigue of, I mean, that was one thing Zalatoris said to me when he was a junior golfer and we used to play a lot when I had Corn Ferry status. He's like, honestly, it's really boring watching you play because I know exactly what you're going to do on every shot.
Yep.
Whereas I'm coming up there and I could do anything
Hmm.
like it. And I'm like, yeah. And I just wear you out. And it's
Hmm.
just funny looking back at it because I do think that Will is so good that he tries too much. And I do think that it's like
It's probably
Rory
like a
being able to
curse
work.
of good golfers when you can hit every single shot.
Yeah, well, it's like Rory. Rory is the best driver of the golf ball on the planet, pretty obviously. And Keith Mitchell is probably the second. And Keith and I have worked together for 5 years or something now. And he and I have both talked about this like, sure, Rory's the best, but I'm not so sure he couldn't be better if he stopped trying to do so much.
Hmm.
I really do believe that also. If he would just stop trying to work the driver so much, I
Hmm.
actually think he would drive the ball better than he does. Because
Which
the
is wild.
occasional smother, the occasional double cross, like those would probably go away.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had that even on my notes here. We didn't because we were moved on from the Masters, but I was wondering if you just think he should just play that draw all the time and stop trying to do anything else. And why doesn't he have a mini driver?
I personally, I think that if Rory got a driver, this is the challenge for a guy like Rory because he's like, I mean, I tried hitting a fade exclusively, but I didn't like it. Well, did you just use your driver? And again, this sounds stupid. Like, of course he didn't just use his driver. It's fit for a draw.
Hmm.
I doubt when he's tried to fade it consistently, he's done it with a driver that is fit for a fade.
Mm.
I believe if he got a driver fit for a fade and then just hammered a fade exclusively, that would be optimal for his driver. And then whether it's a mini driver or a 3 wood, but if he dropped back to that anytime he needed to turn the ball over, and what
Hmm.
I would honestly say for a guy like Rory that hits it so far, a guy like a tour player should probably have 16 or maybe even 17 clubs in the bag every day at his home course. The driver should never change, and it's just fit for that shape, and it's just what I
Hmm.
use. And then you should have a mini driver, have a 3 wood, because if you get to Augusta, there's nowhere you need a 3 wood. I mean, if you've got a 3 wood into 15, you probably should lay it up.
Probably.
And you won't have it into the other holes.
Yep.
So that's a spot where, hey, it's mini driver this week. It is an easier club to hit. You're going to hit it 20 yards further than your 3 wood. so we practice it on a daily basis. We also practice 3 wood on a daily basis because if I'm at a different course that's not Augusta, maybe I do need to hit it into some par fives. Maybe I do still need to turn over some shots. And then I would have a Rocket 3 hybrid and a flat face driving iron that I could also roast, that I would take one of those out depending on
Hmm.
the course. And then, pretty much 3 iron down would be the same,
Okay.
and I wouldn't change that based on whatever the course was. I know tour players like to change the bounce on their 60. If they're
Depending
over in
on.
Scotland where it's rock hard, they'll go with less bounce.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. Have a couple 60. Honestly, I've used the same Callaway Mickelson grind 60 for probably 6 years.
The
And I
same
have
exact
finally,
club?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
I have
okay.
finally exhausted the entire world's supply of new
Oh.
Mickelson 60s. And so I actually was finally done with my last one at Champions Tour qualifying last year. I'm like, all right, this is it. Because I guarantee you cannot go on eBay and
Hmm.
find a new Callaway used. You cannot find a brand new Mickelson Grind 60 12 bounce anywhere on this planet. I've bought them all. And
I
so
love it.
Frederick
Commitment.
Lindblom, who caddied for me at final stage, he's like, I've got one of those.
No
And I'm like,
way.
you do? I'm like, there's no way. Well, we went back to his house after the final round and he did.
That's
So I took
hilarious.
it. I had the other one refinished, and I'm playing with I'm practicing with the
Mm.
refinished one, and I'm keeping the other one only for playing. And
Hmm.
so the week leading into a tournament or tournament round, I'll go to the new
Yep.
one and make sure I've got my spin and all that stuff correct with it, and then go back to the other one for practice.
Love it. I do the same thing because I'm like bashing balls in the simulator. I'm like, I don't want to wear down the groove, so you gotta have that backup one. Oh man, Phil Mickelson, come on, get that wedge back for you. One last thing to kind of close that loop, because Dr. Larden's scorecard is so big in your program as well, and obviously it helped you go to a +6.5 when you first got started with it. Was the putting side of things? So do you have a specific thing you like to do with putting? What does your routine look like? How does it maybe change over the years? And what do you recommend for everyone else?
This gets back to would I am I trying to get to +6 or am I just comfortable hovering where I'm at? One thing I did last year, so I didn't putt good the whole first 8 months of the year. Well, I say that I don't play golf until April typically. So April to August, I didn't putt very well. The greens at my new home course were a lot slower than I would hope. And so I just like I didn't practice. A, it's no fun. I felt like when I get into a tournament, they're going to be faster.
Mhm.
This is what's so funny about the definition of wisdom is taking your own advice. People email me realistically 2 or 3 times a month or DM me the same question. And I get a couple times a month, hey, the greens in my home course aren't very fast. I know I'm going to be going to a tournament with faster greens. Do you think I should practice? And my reply is always like, well, practicing is better than going to be better than not practicing. And then you just need to figure out how to adjust. But the odds of you showing up to quick greens without practicing and being good is probably slim. Did I
Mhm.
take my own advice for the first half of the year, even leading into the US Senior Open? No. I literally did not practice my putting the week leading into the US Senior Open. I'm like, I'll just get there and I'll figure it out. So finally, I'm like, well, dummy, that wasn't working. So let's go ahead and start practicing. But one thing Max Grazerman told me, I called him because he's was second in strokes gained putting last year. Speed control is amazing. I was like, this may be a dumb question, but what do you do?
Mhm.
Like, is there anything you're thinking in your head or anything? He's like, yeah, Jason Day was telling me one time that so first look is squaring your body and your putter and everything to your start line.
Okay.
And then so from behind the ball, you're really trying to visualize the roll of the putt, but not just the line, but the actual speed the ball needs to be rolling on also.
Mhm.
And so first look over it, you're squaring everything to your start line. And then your second, and you're kind of feeling the general pace. And then the second line is you're tracing the exact line you want it to roll on and
Mm.
also at the speed it needs to be going on. And this is where I'm 51 years old, tons of experience. I mean, I kind of know how hard it needs to be rolling. I
Mhm.
just used to think, all right, here it is to the hole and try to roll it there,
Mm.
as opposed to the putter is a one launch smash factor. So the ball is going to launch at basically the exact speed it gets hit with. And so if I can trace those first 8 feet at the pace that it needs in order to be getting where it's going, well, now I just try to replicate that clubhead speed into the ball speed. And I can't tell you, like I went from putting terrible to I was plus
Hmm.
1.1 strokes gained putting for the, per round for the 8 rounds of Champions Tour qualifying.
That's
And
solid.
this year, the little bit I've played this year, I've still putted pretty solid for the most part.
Hmm.
So what do I do? In a utopian world, I would do the decade foundation speed drills. But honestly, like just the super arrogant comment, I'm pretty damn good. Me doing those isn't really going to help me much. If I wanted to get better, yeah, I need to do those. Specifically the 5 to 15 foot drill. But I don't want to lay those things out. So what I do now is I find a hole that is two holes that are basically 40 feet apart. If I can't find that, I put two tees out that are 40 feet apart. And so then I just really lag from like 25 to 40 feet. I'll take three balls and I'll start at like 40 feet, 30 feet, 25 feet. And then I'll lag those to the same tee. And then I'll turn around and I'll kind of like try to lag them back 25, 30, 40 feet. But then I'll also lag that 25 footer, the last 15 feet, the 30 footer, the last 10 feet, and then turn around, just kind of keep going back and forth doing that.
Hmm.
And I really, my speed's pretty, I mean, pretty good, pretty consistently doing that. So, again, if I wanted to get better, I would need to do the speed drills in order to improve. Like the definition of improving is improving against yourself. Your
Hmm.
Joe Schmo 5 to 10 handicap that's listening, you probably really do need to work on your speed quite a bit. So having those foundations, decade foundation speed drills are great to use. Uh, but also, I do think that whenever I was playing in my 20s, I just randomly rolled balls all around the green. I didn't know how long they were. I was just trying to work on my speed.
Hmm.
And I do think that knowing how long each putt is will start to give you a feel. Like I know that for me on a green that's about 10, like 40 feet is about the longest the longest stroke, I should say the shortest stroke I'm gonna make before I really feel like I'm hammering it. So like
Mm.
if I make kind of the longest stroke that still just feels like a stroke,
Yeah.
that's about 40 feet. I
Before
don't do
you're
the
trying to
whole
put a little
Bryson.
emphasis into it, kind of like the chipping, so
Yeah,
you kind of have like a gauge of it.
pretty similar. And then, from what we want to get good at in golf is two putting from 20 to 40 feet and getting close to making it from 5 to 15 feet. If
Hmm.
you're getting close to making it from 5 to 15 feet, some putts are going to eventually fall. And we just want to, and it's not difficult to get really good at two putting from 20 to 40 feet. I don't care how bad you are at golf. You can do that pretty easily. And what we're practicing, like on that 30 footers, we're trying to get it into like a 3 foot zone. So now, once you actually get out on the course, though, if we're 30 feet and I'm trying to roll it into a 3 foot zone, well, I've got 3 feet long and 3 feet short to work with. It's actually a 6 foot window that I can roll it into, a 6 foot circle from 30 feet to basically have my next putt be good. But you've got to be comfortable leaving putts short in order to use that math in your favor.
Hmm.
And so if you never leave any putts short, yeah, you've got about a 3 foot window to leave it in. If you're
Hmm.
comfortable leaving putts short, you've got about a 6 foot window to leave it in. If your goal is to make a 30 footer, you're absolutely kidding yourself. You're
Hmm.
sure there's times I really need to make this. I get it. Probably should have done better before we got here.
Yeah, I was gonna
Probably
say
should have.
putting came up when I was asking the Instagram audience for questions. Putting seemed like a big one. I don't think we talked about that a ton in the other ones because you've done a lot of driver and approach shot and stuff. So I'm glad we learned some more chipping. And even with putting, like do you follow a system? Do you do aim point or do any specific things when reading putts, or do you have like your own green reading process?
I believe in aim point, and I need to practice feeling the slope more. So Ralph Bauer, who have you ever had him on? He'd be
I
interesting on
have
the
not.
podcast. He's an interesting guy. He's definitely a little OCD on the spectrum. He would be interesting to see if you could actually tie down with a coherent thought. And I love you, Ralph. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm the same way. But he's got something called Tour Read, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
actually the
I've seen.
math
Hmm.
of aim point. So if you think about it, aim point, if we're all calibrated the same, we should be getting the same answer. It just removes the need for calibration. And I'm not going to explain what it is, but it's basically you take a whopping 2 times the length of the putt in steps. The math is not hard. It's like decade math is not hard.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really good. And what Ralph did that really helped my green reading was because I was just like, man, I'm just not very good at feeling the slope.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, then this is a simple cure. You need to figure out what the smallest amount of slope is that you can feel, which for me is about 1.1%
Okay.
or degrees, whatever it is. And then you need to figure out what the smallest amount you can see is, which for me is about zero point 0.5. I can see better than I can feel. He's like, so if you can't see it and you can't feel it, guess what? It's a straight putt, but it's probably not. That's why straight putts actually are some of the hardest to make
Hmm.
because if it's straight, like if it's straight and uphill, if you try to favor a side, like I bet it's going to go left. Well, so that means I'm going to favor it inside right. Well, technically, if it is actually straight, I've now made that putt break marginally right. And
Mm.
the way to think of that is if you take a pool table and you tilt it at 45 degrees and you go dead straight up the middle, if you even move it a centimeter right, that putt's going to break right now. If you move it a centimeter left, so if you actually have a straight putt uphill, but you try to favor a side, you're actually making it worse on yourself.
Hmm.
Because then it's going to break right. Ah, I knew it was going to break right. No, it was probably dead straight, but
Yeah.
you had to favor. It's so hard to take an 8 foot putt and play it straight and just watch it fall either way. But you know what? The other thing is if we play it straight, like on that pool table, and I pull it a centimeter,
Oh.
that putt is now going to want to fall left. I knew it was going to break left. I should have played it right center. No, because then it would have broke right. Really crazy. But the putt has to be dead straight. But that's why it's hard.
Yeah. But that actually feels good because sometimes I'm like, I'm just going middle cup then, because when I can't like, I'm like, it looks straight, so you're actually
I,
opening more of the hole up, it sounds like.
I had a putt in the Texas Open last summer, the summer before maybe, that was really eye-opening for me, where I was doing decent in the tournament. Final round, I'd got myself to a few under par, and I made a bogey or two, and then I finally had a putt that was like a 10-footer that just read dead straight.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, this sucks because I have to play it dead straight. There's no way it's gonna be. I'm gonna make 3 bogeys in a row. Like that's the mental midget I am. I have already played this thing out in my head, but I'm like,
Yep.
it is what it is. And I played it straight, and that thing just rolled straight as an arrow right in the middle. And I was like, you have to do it sometimes. Like,
Hmm.
sure, it's confirmation bias that it worked out, but it was the correct thing to do. And again, that's with putting, it really is. Putting is hard, man. That's why an 8 foot putt on tour is only 50-50. It's not because they can't hit their line and speed from 8 feet. It's because bumps, breaks, bounces, wind, grain. It's just it's just hard. And once you have proper expectations, again, that's why the first E of decade is expectation. Once your expectations are in check, you're gonna hit better shots, more committed shots. And so, the kind of the put a bow on the whole thing is if you can drive the ball well, which you'll do by shaping it one direction, for sure better than trying to hit it straight or working it both ways. If you can drive the ball well, you're going to be in good position a lot. If you can pick good targets going into the greens, you're going to hit a lot of greens in regulation. The greens you miss probably aren't going to be extraordinarily short-sighted. So you're going to have a nice little Tiger 5, no blown easy saves chip shot, or you're going to have a lot of 20 to 40 foot putts that you're good at two putting at. And you understand to work on your speed from there, and you understand how to read greens inside of 12 feet. You just sit back and wait out variance. Like I hate saying it's that easy, but at the end of the day, it is that easy. Now, the only upsell that I always give in a decade is choosing that correct target coming into the green is what's difficult. And that's what, I always kind of hold behind a paywall for my decade members is all of that stuff.
Sure.
But um, that's the game in a nutshell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
That's the decade like teaser. You need to add that on the website right there because that is the big four. It's like those four things really they've transformed the
trust
way
me,
I look at the game.
I've already thought I enjoyed the way this podcast has gone, and it's been different than most of them. Trust me, I've already thought of asking you if I can have it and stick this in the app. So
100%. 100%. You got time
yeah,
for a few more questions?
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's a really like big one for me. It's just like you said, simplify it. We've done like such a good job with it. But I had a lot of people ask about partner events and how that can maybe change things and or match play. So obviously we don't need to reveal the whole decade, strategy and stuff with the how close and what to do. But like, does any attitude or mindset or targets change when you have a partner event or you are in match play?
Not really. I mean, if there's any deviating from proper decade strategy will not result in more birdies, or at least it won't result in more birdies that aren't offset by more bogeys and doubles,
Mm-hmm.
leading to a higher expected value score.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think on average you should. There are two exceptions to that rule for match play, stroke play, or partner play,
Okay.
and that's somewhat reachable par fives and somewhat drivable par fours. If you can get it up and around the green, you're going to materially increase how many birdies and even eagles, but that's irrelevant in the math you make.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make more birdies by getting it closer to the green. You're going to also make more bogeys if there's penalty hazards and stuff in play. But honestly, it's not usually enough to make your scoring average go up materially. So in
Okay.
a stroke play event, I've got 3 holes to go. I'm two back. I'm 260 on a par five with some hazards on it. I can reliably go for that
Mm-hmm.
and not destroy my scoring. What I'm technically doing is introducing variance without destroying my average. So I'm going to make a wider range of scores, but I'm also not going to destroy my overall scoring average. And then you're just like crossing your fingers it works out that time.
Right, right.
Personally, I still don't think you should do that in a stroke play event
Okay.
unless you've got like a 4 shot lead on third.
Mm.
Because there's always, whether it's AJGA points, your club's Ryder Cup points,
Mm-hmm.
FedEx Cup points, like there's always a reason we don't want to just hemorrhage points.
Yeah.
But okay, we got a 4 shot lead on where I'm the next spot I'm going to lead this point. Okay, let's get more aggressive. But in a match play situation where I'm two down with 3 to go, yeah, I probably need to make something happen here.
Mm-hmm.
On a
So you
par
start
four,
getting a little bit more aggressive with the target selection and just being
on a
kind
par
of
four from 160, I wouldn't because I just need a little bit of variance.
okay.
By aiming more at the flag, you're trying to force all of that variance to be on your second shot,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to allowing a little bit of variance on your second shot and a little bit of variance on your third shot work for you.
Mm-hmm.
By playing with proper decade strategy, you'll have a slightly longer birdie putt on average, but you'll have more of them. Your birdie rate won't
Mm-hmm.
change, which all really does tie hand in hand perfectly with the fact that your scoring average is driven down more no matter who you are by avoiding bogeys than it is by making more birdies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what matters there. Now, in a two-man team event, your partner's already laid up to 70 yards, and you can really try something aggressive, assuming you can actually get it putting. Sure, go for it. But also having 2 shots from 70 yards, again, I always want you to get it as close as you can based on the difficulty of the shot. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be if the proper strategy by yourself is to try to hit 3 wood up and around the green, then that's still the proper strategy in a two-man event. But if it is a riskier decision that's good. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and send it up there and see if we can inch something because we do kind of have par as our partner,
Mm-hmm.
theoretically. But dude, your partner can screw that up from 70 yards. Also, now you just made double and your partner has you just put in the hazard. Now your partner's got some extra pressure on him from 70.
Mm-hmm.
That can implode really quickly. So
Yeah, that's true. Then you put a lot of pressure on them, which then can kind of mentally screw them. I hadn't even thought about it in that perspective. Yeah, because it's like you said, you're playing more aggressive, bigger shot dispersion. Yeah, that makes sense. So
I
play the
just
odds.
I just really do believe that. I just think you should just make good, sound decisions. The only
Mm-hmm.
time personally I would deviate is if I were literally dormy. I mean, literally dormy. Even
Yeah.
two down with 3 to go, I doubt I would change much. And the
Okay.
only things I would change it on would be on those par fives and drivable par fours. I wouldn't change anywhere else. And it's
Mm,
funny because you'd be like, well, but I'm probably going to lose. Yeah, you're two down with 3 to go. You're probably going to lose. If you think trying to force it here, it's just
mm,
like when you've got a decent round going, you're on your average score. I really want to shoot under par. Your average is even. You're even with 3 to go. I really want to shoot under par, so I'm going to try to make a few birdies coming in. And then you're like shot 74. You're like,
mm.
I shouldn't have done that. Probably not.
Anytime I hear someone say, I'm gonna go low today or I'm gonna make a bunch of birdies, I just start laughing and think about you because I'm like, oh, just stop. Just stop.
Well, it's when people ask me, should anything change for Monday qualifiers? It's like,
Hmm.
no. Bo Hostler, we worked together before he had PGA Tour status. It was like 2015 or 16. He was in town for the Nelson. I went out to walk with Jordan Hostler and the guy that I was working with, Kramer Hickok, for a few holes. And I don't go talk to Bo or Jordan. Like, I don't know them. I'm just here with my guy.
Hmm.
But after I left, Kramer called me. He's like, hey, Bo was asking if he could have your number. He was kind of intrigued by it. So cool. So we talked. And it was interesting. We went out on that weekend. He missed the cut at the Nelson. We went out and played that weekend. Went to the Colonial, or actually, I went to a practice round with him on Tuesday at Colonial, and we talked a bunch. He played better, but he still missed the cut there. He came out and we played golf on Saturday at my home course. Um, and he was like, "Oh my God, the light bulb has gone off." He calls me on Sunday. And he's driving to Wichita for a Corn Ferry Monday qualifier. He's like, hey, does anything change for Mondays? And I'm like, no. Well, how often do you shoot 65 or better on your home course? He's like, I don't know, 35% of the time. I'm like, cool. That's your odds of making it tomorrow. You can't, you couldn't step up at your home course and be like, well, today I want to do it. Otherwise, that's what you would do every day.
Hmm.
And so Bo goes out and he actually shoots 65, I think, in the Monday qualifier. And here's a guy that had just missed back-to-back cuts. He goes out, shoots 65 in the Monday qualifier, and he finished second to Aaron Wise, my other player in the field at Wichita. He finished second to him by 4, I think it was, but I'm pretty sure
Nice.
he was like 5 shots clear of third.
Wow.
So here's a guy that tells me, dude, I'm playing good. I
Uh-huh.
don't know what's wrong. I'm missing because he literally is like, I'm not even close, man. If I were like finishing 17th, I don't think I'd care, but I'm like, I'm not even close. I'm missing cuts.
Hmm.
I'm playing good though. I'm like, I bet you are. You just don't know what you're doing, especially because in college, the pins are 5 or 6 yards from the edge and you get used to firing right at them. And now you're
Hmm.
on tour where the greens are firmer, the rough is longer, and the pin is 3 or 4 yards from the edge of the green. And you're just used to firing at pins. You don't know anything else. And so he's just barely missing a couple of greens around by a couple more yards than he should. Even the greens he missed already would now be 3 or 4 yards further off the green than they should be. And then the couple greens that he missed by 2 or 3 yards should have been in the left fringe. And so you just clean up those mistakes, and it's like you're not doing anything different. You just got 2 shots better because you're hitting 3 greens more around. If you're 66% and getting them up and down, it's pretty basic math right there.
Mm. I like the 30%. I never thought about it like that. Like, what's your, how often are you doing it there? So, because I actually had that on here, because a lot of players were asking, do you do anything different for one day events? It sounds like you said no. What about looking at the leaderboards?
What's the point?
Okay, so that's exactly where I am. People ask me, they're like, "How do you not look?" Like, I won a men's club event not too long ago, and I was, didn't even look. I had no idea where I was because I was like, I'm already playing to optimize everything based on decade, so nothing is going to change.
I'm committed to the fact, but I'll walk it back. I'm committed to the notion that there's nothing you can do to intentionally make more birdies or intentionally do this. Otherwise, that would just be the correct play
Hmm.
because it would have a lower scoring average. There's a movie, I wish I could remember what it was, where the guy's saying he's trying to talk someone into taking a shortcut. And he's like, dude, if we just keep going the way, we'll get there right on time. If we take the shortcut, we might not. And he's like, if the shortcut was the right way to go, it would just be called the way. I wish I remember
Yep,
what it was.
that's
He's like, it's
good.
not called the way for a reason. So that's how I view that question is if that were the
Hmm.
right thing to do, it would be the way. It's not the way. So again, so now if let's pretend I do know I'm two back with 3 holes to go. Is there anything personally I would do different? No. If I were two up with 3 holes to play, is there anything I would do different? No. Now, if I were two up on 18, there's potentially a different decision I would make. But also, you just start running all these game theoretic decisions on imperfect information. Are you really trusting Golf Genius live leaderboard at your home course that these scores are right? Pretty risky if you are, because
Yep.
I've seen some pretty shitty scorekeeping.
That's fair. I never even
So,
thought about that, to be honest with you. Yeah, just one slip of the
yeah, I mean,
finger and it's a four and a five, or vice versa.
well, that was even the deal at the Masters in 2021 when Will finished second.
Hmm.
Um, I asked him, like, did you know where you stood or Hideki stood? He's like, man, there's so few scoreboards out there. I really didn't know. He's like, I mean, I
Uh-huh.
knew I was doing decent. I didn't know how many behind I was. He's on 17T, 15's right there. When he sees Hideki just rifle it over in the water, and all of a sudden he's like, I wonder what that means. But he's just
Mm,
like, is there
yeah.
anything I'm going to do different here if that's in the water long? Because I don't even know. Is he four up, two up, one up? Does it matter technically? I know I don't have a two-shot lead. So, like, does it matter? No, it doesn't.
Hmm.
Just totally irrelevant. You could tell him what Hideki is, and it would be totally irrelevant for his next shot.
Hmm. I mean, it's
Like,
just so
that's a
funny though. The
utopian
number one
view.
thing people are like, I'm gonna play good today. I'm gonna set that score goal. And I hear it so often. I just wanted you to be like, stop looking at leaderboards, stop setting score goals, just play the best based on your strategy.
What's the point? I
I
mean,
know.
I played with this high school kid a year or two ago, and he kept on texting me some updates, over the next week or two, and he had played bad, I think, in the first round. I wish I remember what it was exactly, but he sent me a text. It was like, I got to go low tomorrow. I'm like, do you? Like, I bet you're going to shoot 75 and finish 19th. But if you go out there and try to go low, you're probably going to shoot 78. And like, just trying to go low is not, again, it would just be called the way. I
Yep.
mean,
I love it. It's just people need to hear it though. It's like so golf attracts such type A players that you think that if you try and will it into existence, it can. I think he's probably the only guy that could set a score goal and actually do it. I feel like he talked about that a lot, but I mean, even him, I mean, it's just making golf so
how
much
many
harder.
times did he set a score goal and not do it or exceed it? I mean,
Correct. Yeah.
again, I'm the biggest Tiger fan in the history of the world. I mean, by a
I
bazillion,
don't see your
bazillion
tiger
miles.
painting behind you, but all right. So,
Hey, that's a Tiger signed hat.
okay, we'll take that. We'll take that.
There you go. Actually, that was a
If I
one-upping right
pass
there.
away early, I'll put you in the will here so you can send it
There we
your
go. I'll
way.
get it a little bit better in focus. It is actually pretty cool. Hold on. This is not an official endorsement, but it is
Oh,
pretty
look
cool.
at that.
Definitely
I,
not an official endorsement.
don't worry, Tiger, we won't send it to him.
What was funny one time is I did a podcast or something like this, and Ted Scott I used to work with while he was with Bubba, and I didn't even realize in my old office I had it sitting. It wasn't like I had set it up to like, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't even think someone would notice it. And Ted Scott texted me, he's like, "Sneaky Tiger Woods placement right behind you," and I was like, "That wasn't intentional. It really wasn't." The rest of those are, but
Yeah, I love it, man. That's awesome. Well, you've done a lot for the game. We really do appreciate it. I got two last little questions for you, and we'll let you go. But thanks again just for continuing to share so much because we've tackled so many different angles now on different episodes. It's a ton of fun. One thing I haven't asked you about, and I was talking to James Barry. I don't know if the college golfer. I think you guys follow each other and are doing some stuff on Instagram. But he talks about a lot about post round recaps and things like that to try and anchor into good shots and not beat yourself up too much. What do you recommend players do? Because like my ritual is relive the good shots on the drive home, get home, do my decade stats, so I kind of close it all up, and then process any really bad shots or kind of bad decisions. Anything
I'm
else
glad you
players
said
should do?
that. I'm glad you said it because that's something I actually had kind of forgotten. I do think that as you're practicing, if there's any one thing I think that everybody does wrong is we practice too fast. We think that hitting more balls is going to be better than hitting less balls. And one thing I always tell people to do, and as I'm trying to change a few things after having knee surgery, I really need to actually do, and I totally forgot about it, is, let's say that here we are, bam, we hit a good shot, is to really stand here for a second and really feel like immediately after, really feel what just happened
Hmm.
because it really does get that brain to body neural pathway, whatever other BSE words I could say, myelination. I think
Pedantic,
it's,
some might say, so.
yeah, it might be pedantic. I don't even remember what it actually means now. I always thought it just meant childish. It sounds
I
like it
have
should mean
no idea what it
childish.
means. I just hear you say it and I'm like, all right, Scott knows what it means.
Yeah, no, hold on. I gotta Google this again real
We got to
quick.
figure it out. Gotta close this loop.
Pedantic means um, over like a pendant, whatever. That's stupid. Being overly concerned with minor details, rules, or formalities.
Okay.
I say pedantic mistakes, meaning I like a childish mistake,
Mm.
and it's not. Often to the point of being annoying or tedious. Pedantic mistake.
Mm. Learn something new every day.
I don't know. Maybe that's. I like that Google definition right there. I'm a little closer than I thought I was. Um, but I really do believe that taking after a round and thinking back to what you did good and bad, I do think that going through your Tiger Five mistakes and really thinking through what you could have done differently to I definitely did that on my number 10 mistake at my Masters. Like, gosh, I gotta really ingrain that mistake, that lack of patience and discipline right there into my head as
Mm.
I start my USGA qualifiers coming up, because those are the mistakes like you're just not going to get through in two spotters if you're making that silly mistake. So
Hmm.
going through, but I also do think that when you're hitting balls, I think this is kind of what you're saying, James is talking about, like really slowing down and really feeling that swing change, like, okay, this is what I really felt. I need to do better than that. I literally completely had forgotten about that. Does that answer that
Yeah.
question? I feel like I've
Yeah, I
meandered.
just didn't know if there's anything else that like you do, or yeah, I know you work with a lot of tour players and stuff. Is there anything they do after the round? Like, do they? I know, like it seems like pros practice a lot more than obviously amateurs do. But like, I was playing in a tournament last weekend, and I just like lost my game in like the back nine, and it hurt my soul because I was 7 under through 13 playing phenomenal golf, and then just forgot how to hit like 4 shots, and then made a couple doubles, and I was like, what the hell happened? So I went to the range and like I had to get some closure on those few shots. And then obviously I come home, do my decade, send it to my buddy. We always have a little ritual to see our strokes gained in the Big Four and Tiger Five and stuff. But anything you like recommend or you see the tour players do, whether it's journaling, talking about bad shots, anything.
Journaling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting how, I mean, success leaves clues. The greatest at any occupation in the world, journal. It's so boring and it feels so pointless, but I mean, this is literally that entire box is journals,
Love it.
just notes and stuff and whatever. The one thing I don't do very well is reviewing it as often as I should,
Hmm.
because that's the point, is to write it down, review it, improve, whatever. I don't review as much as I probably should, but I mean, shoot, just looking at it, there's 30 journals in there just full of notes and crap, at
Love it.
least. Oh my God, it's actually kind of embarrassing. I'm a little,
Hey, I'm right there
but
with you.
that is what the best players in the world do. They are very thinky and thoughtful and journal and what could I've done better? What can I do better? It's
Hmm.
that, I don't believe in the 1% better every day, compounds to infinity. Like, but you know what? If you're just trying to get better, sure, you're not going to get better every day.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to, eventually it's going to be. And so success leaves clues. The best players in the world, for sure, journal. And what's interesting is I've actually gone the opposite way of what you just said. You hit these two bad shots and you kind of had to go to the range and figure it out. I've reached this point. Again, I honestly feel like the
They
word,
were so bad I had to because I had never hit that shot before. But normally I never do.
but let's pretend that you didn't figure it out.
Hmm.
Sounds like you did. Let's pretend you didn't. Now you're going home still pissed off. I actually, again, what I was about to say is this idea of being enlightened, in a metaphysical sense, like the Buddha. I'll never be that in life, but I actually feel like I'm enlightened with the game of golf now. Like I just get it, and I've definitely reached the point where, if I'm hitting it bad on one given day, the odds of me going to the range and figuring it out are basically zero. Most likely, my body's in a slightly weird position, shoulders are rounded in, something's
Hmm.
not quite moving right. At this point, will actually fix my game better in the gym than I will on the range.
Okay.
And I'm lucky that I've got a pretty simple, very basic swing that's very repetitive. I believe it's very repetitive because I'm just trying to do one thing only with every single club in the bag. It is
Hmm.
identical. Um,
So when you go
I
to the
really do
gym
believe
after the round, are you doing like workout or like flexibility, mobility, like foam roll and stuff like that?
if I were at a golf tournament and I hit the ball bad,
Hmm.
I would go to the gym for probably 30 minutes and it would be just a lot of foam rolling, um, small rotator cuff, getting my shoulder blades down and back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stretching, just trying to get something different in my body. And
Mm-hmm.
then what I would do, and I mean, honestly, like it's on it's on my home screen here. Scott's trying to, I just need to figure out. Well, I put it up on YouTube. This is how much I just want to have access to it. I had Garrett from Good Good out to my home course for a one-day member guest last year, and conveniently, I hit every green, shot the easiest 65 you'll ever see. But I asked him, I was like, "Will you have them send me just my shots? Like, just
Mm-hmm.
chop it up to where it's just my shots?" And I would, if I had a bad day, I would honestly go hit the gym, foam roll, do all that, and then I would just watch that video. Have a few good swings of yours on your phone to where if you are hitting it bad, like you'd be amazed at how
I
much
just
you can
added
feel it.
this
It's
chapter yesterday in my third book, so I'm stoked you said it, man. Because I said create a highlight reel, like have a like feel good. You need to feel good about your game. Just like chop them up together, throw them on Cap Cut, and make them look good. And like you said, you just kind of and feeling it out. That's even better. I never even thought about that.
I was a pretty good skateboarder through like ninth grade. I mean,
God, I want to see Scott skateboard. I need to
I
see
could
it.
drop in on a 12-foot ramp with 2 feet of vert and get a little air. Like I was solid. Nothing amazing, but like you'd be like, "Oh, that guy can skate." And I can still, if I watch the X Games, like it's impossible for me not to feel
Hmm.
the pumping that you're doing as you're going through the flat. And then, because it's so interesting. I wish I would have known this as a kid, but you feel like you're like pumping into it. What you're actually doing is jumping. You're actually lightening yourself on the board as you go up, and then you're increasing your weight. So it's the exact same dynamics as like ground force reactions. I felt like, okay, you're pumping going down, but I felt as you're going into like you're kind of pumping up, but you're actually just jumping to lighten yourself up to let you go higher. So you're just like giving yourself an assist. But I still to this day, if I'm watching, like I can't not, I haven't skated literally since I was in ninth grade,
Hmm.
but I still cannot not feel that exact same motion. And so if you're watching yourself with your swing, dude, you can feel what's
Hmm.
going on. And so, like today, I hit for 50 straight minutes. My plan was to go out there and hit balls for 30, putt for 20, chip for 10 because of this. And I was hitting it so good that I actually started slowing down and getting behind every shot, really going through my entire pre-shot routine, and then really feeling what I was trying to, just because I was striving. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so happy I'm hitting it good. This
Hmm.
is fun. It was like, no, I'm going to really make this count now. Like
Hmm.
I am striping it. I'm going to really try to feel exactly what's going on. I'm not going to just rake balls over and, oh, I'm so happy I'm hitting it good. I'm going to really shift gears here to still hitting the same shot at the same target, but I'm going to introduce the random variable of getting behind each shot, really taking my time, really visual, like just like
Hmm.
I'm on a golf course.
Hmm.
And I hope that because I know what I'm doing different. It feels different.
Hmm.
Like if you just haven't hit a good one day and you don't know why,
Yeah.
well, good luck replicating that. I
Sure.
feel like I'm really hitting it good,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like I know why. I probably hit 25 drivers today. I have been maxing out at 170 or 72 ball speed with like an average of 168 probably.
Hmm.
I probably hit 25 drivers today, and I didn't hit a single one under 170. They were all
Oof.
170 to 74.
Not bad.
I
They're
mean, I was just
51
like,
years young too. Jeez.
I mean, I'm excited with what I did today.
I was gonna say before my last question, I was gonna ask you what's next for Scott's schedule. What do we got coming up?
Well, they're getting started next week, so I'm playing in the Byron Nelson Pro Am actually on
Oh,
Monday, which is
nice.
always my buddy joined the salesmanship club 2 years ago, and he sent me this like, email. Hey, would you, there's just this standard one he sent to everyone. I was like, it's going to cost me like 7,000 a year for the foreseeable future that you're in the salesmanship club, isn't it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, great. So last year I played with Nico Escovaria, however you pronounce his name. So I've got that on Monday. We'll see who I'm paired with. I mean, that's what's funny is like I'm
Have you
literally
done
just,
these before?
yeah. I mean, I played in last year's,
Okay, so last year was the first one.
but it's just literally like I'm Joe Businessman out there, and I will get paired with some random PGA Tour player.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really fun because then we're playing like the white tees, like
Oh
it's
yeah, you're gonna go low.
shamble. Oh, it's fun. So that's Monday. My first stage, the U.S. Senior Open that I qualified for last year, but it was only one stage last year. This year they've broken it up into two stages.
Hmm.
My first stage is next Thursday. Um, at a golf course that's a little dicey. I played a practice round there yesterday. It's not exactly in the greatest shape ever for
Always fun.
U.S. Senior Open qualifying. But I was wondering, I saw last week the first sight of first stages, and they had 17 spots. So they're trying to, I think, just weed out the riffraff in a first stage. And then I'm thinking, because last year there were only two spots where I qualified,
Uh-huh.
and I'm assuming that since there's way fewer second stages than there were first stage last year, I'm
Hmm.
assuming there'll be 4 to 6 spots maybe at each site. So
Okay.
I actually think if you're a good player, I actually think it might be an easier way to qualify. I don't
Then just
know if
then just a
that's,
one stage, you mean?
I think so. I don't know, honestly. I mean, again, it'll be interesting to see like how many former tour players aren't exempt that have to go to second stage, or I don't know. It'll be interesting. So that's Thursday. And then the following Tuesday, I've got my US Open first stage. And so I got those three things on the books, and
Perfect.
we'll reconvene from there.
When was your US Open that you played in?
I played in the actual US Open in 1999, and then I
Okay,
played in the US
99.
Senior Open last year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say I remember you played in the I would love to I wish we could go back and find footage from that too from 99. That would be amazing because
Oh my
I
God, it
this
would
is
be.
pre-decade and everything else. I think we talked about in like the first episode. But that'd be cool to see. But yeah, I got my US Open in May 12th, so looking forward to it. But wishing you luck on your events, and obviously are you gonna do Q school? Is this an annual thing now for seniors?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try each year. To be perfectly honest, like this year, my daughter turns 16 in September, which will really help me with driving, not having to drive her. She can drive my younger daughter around some,
Hmm.
assuming she gets slightly more driving skills. It's been a little sketchy so far. She's improving, but it's been a little scary so far, but she's got 5 months.
Okay.
Um, so this year would be the first year. I mean, like even if you gave me, I missed getting status last year by three. Even if you gave me a card, my life isn't nearly organized enough to actually be able to out and go out and play. I do think this year, and it's not. I tried last year. I'm not saying that, but this year I'll try a little bit harder.
If it's in
I don't even
Scottsdale,
know
I'm
what
coming
that.
out this year. I was out of town for a couple of those days. I wanted to come support you. So if it's back in Scottsdale, I'll be there.
I hope it's there. I mean, last year that was the only chance I had. If it's normally like at TPC Tampa Bay, which I would have had no chance last year because I was just hitting my irons so high and so
Mm.
poofy. Scottsdale in December is the only place I have a chance because it's just a dome.
The
So
scores were wild, though. God, what was it, like 19 under for 4 days?
the guy that won by 10. Soren Kjeldsen was 24 under,
I
which
mean, I played there a month after you did, and I was like, Jesus, because you guys tipped it
that was
out. It wasn't
impressive.
like you played.
I could I could get to 14 under. I was one under with an opening 75. I think I shot 75, 72, 66, 70, something like that. I could get to 14 if I played good. I mean, I'd have to play good, but I could get to that. I couldn't get, I don't think I could get to 50. Like 14 was that's as good as I've got.
Hmm.
So I think that if I'd played really solid, I could have gotten that. But 24 under, I was like,
That was crazy.
I could maybe best ball to that. I mean, maybe.
I'm telling
I'm
you, when
not
I
even
looked
sure
at
that
the
I
scores,
could,
I'm
to be
like,
honest.
because you guys tipped it out. It wasn't like you played up, right?
It was 72 and
Yeah,
change. I mean, it was
perfect weather. But I mean, I was still like, that's
the
crazy good
greens were
golf.
perfect. And
Yeah.
those things are so subtle that anything inside 20 feet, like just looked like it had a chance to go in. And I
Hmm.
played with Soren at first stage, like the third round, I think, of first stage. And he won first stage also. And it was just so, I mean, obviously he won back-to-back events. It was just so impressive. Just exactly what you'd expect. Just solid drives, solid irons, solid putting. But I never would have saw. I think 24 under would have been close in a PGA Tour event. If they'd had one there that week, I think that would have been the number. Like I
Dang.
don't see lower than that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's wild. I mean, the course is it's a good test. So yeah, you guys tore it up there. So we gotta step it up a little bit to get to Scott's level. But you know, that's kind of my goal now. And I got 13 years before 50, so you know we'll be there. For the last question, I wanted to know. This actually came in from a user. I thought this was a really good one. Someone that's been following the podcast. They said, "What do you believe is the most difficult concept within decade that players take the longest to adapt to?"
I mean, just becoming oblivious to where you stand at par. That's so hard to do. I mean, I played a club event out at my home course last year, and I was, well, I'll start off. So, leading into the senior US Open, I was really trying to change my swing to get my ball flight down and hit flightier shots, get some forward shaft lean on my irons to have those be more correct. And I don't think I realized at the time how jacked up my knee was, that obviously, like I say, I had surgery on in January. I wasn't capable of doing what I was trying to do. And so I was playing some solid golf early in the season. Let's call it, I think I joined my home course like April 1st. And so I played some solid golf from like April to the middle of May, which was a little bit before the qualifier. Um, Shot some 60s, like I was playing solid, like I kind of normally do. And then I started probably getting closer to making the changes I was trying to, and my body wasn't allowing me to do it. And so I started playing progressively worse after shooting 68 to qualify. For the next 3 weeks, I was like doubling down that I've got 3 weeks to really make these changes. And then I just completely, I was stuck between patterns of my
Ugh.
old flary pattern to this new one. And so I just had no clue what I was doing. Shot pair 75s, came home, and the following week in a club event, I don't remember what it was, I shot 83. I haven't shot in the 80s since high school, literally. And I was just like, all right, that's not working. So what's funny is I took my daughters to Disneyland. I didn't touch my clubs for a week, 10 days really. And I watched old video of myself, and I just felt it and felt it and felt it. And I came back and immediately started hitting it good again. And so in that 83, I was a couple over, and then I made a 10 on a par five. I hit it OB off the tee, solid second shot. And then we've got this weird green that if you go a foot long, it rolls down 30 more feet, gets on the cart path, and then it rolls down and into the tunnel. I was still a new enough member. I didn't know that was just a fact of what was going to happen. And I landed it too far on the green, and the guy's like, that's going to be OB in the tunnel. And I'm like, really? Like, it's a pretty good
Ugh.
shot. Tunnel's 70 yards that way, dude. He's like, yeah, it's for sure gone, which it was. And so I wind up making a 10. And now I'm thinking, like, dude, I'm like eight over. What am I going to shoot today? Like, so you start going through the mental gymnastics. The point of the conversation is becoming oblivious to where you stand at par. And as I start doing that, I'm like, dude, that's irrelevant.
Mhm.
Like, it's not going well. You're a billion over par already, but like, let's just try to get this to the house. And
Yep.
I really, when I finished that round, I shot 83, but I did not know what I shot. I honestly didn't. I knew it wasn't good. When I had it up, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. A few weeks later, we're having our club Stableford tournament. And it was the week, obviously, of whatever the Stableford event is on the PGA Tour we do on the same weekend. And I was like six under through 10. And the last seven holes, we've got a somewhat drivable par four, two reachable par fives. And I start doing the mental gymnastics of, dude, what could I get this to? And I'm like, wait a second, that's irrelevant because you can also, that drivable par four, you can hit it out of bounds off the tee. Both of the reachable par fives, you've got to go over water. One of them's a really difficult green. Like, you could also make three doubles coming in, and it wouldn't
Mhm.
be completely insane and shoot even. And so no matter if it's going really bad or going really good, you've got to become oblivious. And so when I say like I'm enlightened on the golf course, like I'm the Buddha on the course, it's not that the dumb things don't come into my mind. They
Mhm.
come into my mind. I just don't give them any power. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I might shoot 90 today. Okay, I thought about it. Now that's kind of a pointless thing to think about. Let's move on. And I move on immediately. And so the reason I say that's the hardest thing in decade and takes the longest to do is because that requires a ton of work. You're not going to just do that overnight. I can tell you that's the way to play, but for you to actually pull it off is going to take years, most likely. That's why we get into a meditation practice. That's why we do all the things that I try to teach you in the Decade app. And if you do those, again, anyone who's listened to me blabber for an hour and 30 minutes here, I assume you're trying to shoot your lowest scores possible. If you've put this much effort into it, you should take that last step. And I don't care if you buy Decade or not, but you should get a meditation app. I would recommend Waking Up by Sam Harris. Like, you should get that because you're kind of by definition a little neurotic and a super type A. Otherwise, you would have turned this off already. Yeah, I mean, trust me, I know who I'm talking to. And unfortunately, it's a gift and a curse. It's why a lot of people probably listening are successful, and a lot are probably a little bit crazy. That's why. And so, really understanding, well, you're going to work on something for the next 5 years. Like, there's no way you're gonna be like, that's too much work. I agree. Well, what else are you going to work on? Because it's going to be something else.
Hmm.
At least I'm pretty much guaranteeing you this is the right thing to work on. It's
Wise
not
words.
fun.
Wise words from the golf Buddha.
Exactly. Hey, I've got this right here. So
I love it.
maybe
I love
need
it.
to get a golf
Mine
club
is
in her
mine
hand.
is right outside the door. It's obnoxiously big. So just a little reminder. Well, Scott,
Yep.
always a pleasure. Never a dull moment over here. Appreciate you sharing so much, and thanks again for being on Wicked Smart Golf, man.